All right. Welcome back to Everything in Between. I'm with special guest Ryan. I'm not going to get into why he's here, but he has a story to tell us. And yeah, Ryan, if you just want to start at the beginning of, what kind of led you to your journey of what ended up happening.
And so much for inviting me on, being able to share, connect with even one person that's a successful podcast, in my opinion. So, one life at a time. So my story is I am a very blessed and proud survivor of a suicide attempt via 9 millimeter hollow point. So scientifically, shouldn't be here. Doctor said so. Pull up an X-ray, man. It's pretty wild. I say I'm a walking, talking miracle because just surviving the shot itself was one thing, but then everything that had to fall into place after that just perfectly for me to be here today. It brings tears to my eyes almost every single day when I think about it. So I some of the miracles that I think about a lot. Right after pull the trigger, first thought is like, oh, okay, is this like how it is? Like, would you die? Like, is it? And then like all of a sudden you're like, no, I'm actually alive. Like this is okay. I don't want to die. So I did it. I My attempt was actually at a lake that my son and I spent a ton of time at. Some of my best memories. And so as soon as I realized I was alive and didn't want to die, I crawled into the lake, put the left side of my face in the water to cool that bad boy off because it was burning. Um, Crawled back out of the lake, found my phone, hit Jima in my phone because I was up on my grandparents. And the first big miracle, man, I couldn't talk for almost 6 months. I communicated with all my doctors and everything via dry erase board. But man, when I called grandma, she somehow, some way, someone spoke for me. She heard the word lake, and she knew exactly where to go. Uh, Call ended, and I walked back to my car, grabbed my sleeping bag to get warm, and laid there. And I can still remember Grandpa's truck tire pulling up. Still remember him asking, "Who did this to you?" And I'm pointing to myself, and I'm pointing where the gun is, and I'm imagining the horror for him because as I'm walking back to the car, I can see the eyeball dangling. But he's looking at that and trying to process all that and figure out what's going on. And then he starts the rescue plan, calls grandma to call, 911 and everything. And the town that we were in is a little town of 300 people. Everybody's volunteer. I was again blessed, fortunate, whatever you want to call it, whatever you believe in. I'm not here to preach religion or nothing, but I now feel like I have to believe because I shouldn't be here. So it's one of those like I have to. Too many things went perfect for me not to. The EMT on call at that exact moment in time was the only one certified for IVs, so they were able to hook me up, get me going on that, so keep me alive a little while longer. Get to the real rinky-dink hospital. They couldn't handle it, so off to the next hospital. Get me somewhat stable. At that hospital is where Kathleen kind of speaks to the family a little bit, kind of prepares them, for what probably should and would happen. And then I get flight for life down to University of Madison Hospital, where again, bless the on-call surgeon is he. I have a surgery in 2 weeks. Is one of the best plastic surgeons in the entire country. And since day one, he's made it his mission that I am like his little project, his little baby. And his goal and my goal is to come out of this looking better than when I went in, so that my son can have a dad that looks just like every other dad does, what every other dad does, but just with a wicked story behind it. So
Now, that's crazy. I can't believe you walked away from that. Like you said, you walked to get your sleeping bag. Just walking at all after that point, that sounds insane. Um, it definitely sounds. Okay. So I am curious, just your thoughts of what led to that. Like, how did you get to that dark place?
it's most things in life are marathons, right? Not sprints. They happen slowly. And with darkness, with depression, mental illness, it does start slowly. That's what's tricky about it because you don't even recognize it a lot of times. You don't recognize it till that slow creep. that feels like it was just like a walk around the block. All of a sudden, it's 5 miles in, and you're like, crap, and you don't even know where to begin. So mine is all retroactive. Like I look back now, and I can speak to others about, hey, here's some of the early warning signs. Because as humans, we're creatures of habit. We may say we don't like structure, but man, we love it. Our brains are wired that way. Most of us probably, I mean, not to be graphic, probably take shit same time every goddamn day. Like our bodies are wired that way. So one of the early ones is if your habits change, take a second and think about, was the change caused by something positive or negative? Is it something that you purposely changed because you want to better yourself or maybe, or is it something that changed and you didn't even acknowledge it because then it's potentially something negative? So anytime you break a habit, something caused it. Either you intentionally caused it or some other variable caused it. And if it's another variable, then that's when you've got to take time to process it, think about what is it, because it's not just going to go away. And you can create a new habit surrounded around that variable that is something negative in your life that also becomes a part of every single day of your life. And so for me, I can go all the way back to my time when lived by you, out in Arizona. Um, I wasn't, I didn't like drink at all. And I slowly just started it, and not like heavily. I would actually have a beer. I would have 2 beers at bowling, and played. I'm like, it's just 2 beers, no big deal. But I never used to have it. So kind of like when I look back now, I'm like that was already it was already a warning sign, like I changed the habit. I used to just drink soda here and not out of controllably. But my family has a history of pretty heavy drinkers, so that 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 habit change that I didn't recognize or give it its due respect, ended up being a starting point. Because then when I left Arizona, uprooted myself to that in itself is a change. Now looking back at it, it was running from all those changes that were happening in my life that I didn't allow to process, in Arizona that I didn't recognize. I ran from them then. But guess what? They just followed me. And then they got intensified because I didn't have a network of people around me to keep me up, right? I moved to Minnesota in the middle of freaking nowhere. And so those 2 beers became, man, I was an animal. I went from 2 beers to drinking vodka Red Bulls, and not, again, I mean, not alcoholic status. Had a good time on the weekends, things like that. It wasn't like a work issue, nothing, but it was a weekend thing, which I didn't used to do. So it went from soda to 2 beers to, I uprooted, which is essentially running from all those changes that I just didn't embrace or recognize. And others pointed them out. Like when I look back, like your cousin, I mean, she saw some signs and would point them out, but you just, like you have to be willing to, I say, embrace them. Like, don't fight them. Like if you fight them or you say, "Oh, I'm going to put it in the back of my mind," it stays there and it's going to creep back up, and it's not going to creep back up at a good time. Then the other changes, like it's a lot of habits, right? So Minnesota, drinking more. I never smoked a cigarette in my entire life. 27 years old, started smoking out of nowhere. And I mean, like that was a drastic change that I didn't even recognize. Like it was like I lit one and it became a pack a day. And that was my new habit. But it's a negative habit. It's a coping mechanism, and I'm not acknowledging what it is I'm coping for. So something is wrong mentally for me, and I'm using now alcohol and cigarettes to cope it, but I have no idea what I'm coping. So it's just building, it's festering, it's getting worse and worse, right? Then meet somebody, she has 2 kids, and I get a job offer to go to Oregon to work for who was my boss in Arizona when I was up with you guys. I'm like, heck yeah, let's move again. Let's do that. A fresh start, right? Again, running. Like you don't realize it that you're running. You're rationalizing it. It's a promotion. I'm gonna make more money. I'm gonna do me. I'm gonna get big. And so, again, that selfish mindset at that point in time. She had 2 kids, and we talked about it. She said, "Yeah, go take the job," and we didn't think it'd be a big deal because the kids' dad wasn't like in their life at the time. But it was a big deal because he decided he wanted to be in their life. So for a year, flying back and forth. And then our lawyer finally said, "We got married. He's the breadwinner. Then the judge would have to let you guys leave Minnesota and go to Oregon." So like even my marriage was like a business arrangement, just to be able to solidify my new running destination. Uh, and when I was out there, then it was no longer just drinking on the weekends. It transitioned to drinking weeknights, and then I to drinking like during the day during work hours because I didn't have to be at any certain place. I was a district manager, so I had freedom. I worked from my BlackBerry or my laptop, so no one really knew where I was. So I would just, I could start at noon. So all those habitual changes that started really small ended up being really, really big because then that divorce happens. She moves back to Minnesota with all the kids, our newborn, well, who's a year old. I'm stuck in Oregon. Like, I can't just him until I can land a job that's similar, and nothing was open. And so I struggled for 6 months, couldn't get nothing. And it's like, I got to get closer. Like, I can't just be away from my son. So I quit my career, 10 years. Again, a sign, like, you don't do that. Crazy people. You don't start, at the lowest point in a corporation, get to one of the highest points, and then just quit out of nowhere with no plan. So I moved back to Wisconsin, tried working for my dad, construction, whatever. That didn't pan out. Child support was based off of my 120K salary. I ended up moving up north by my grandparents, taking a factory job, making like $12 an hour. So by the time my child support was paid, my take home was like $180 a month. That $180 a month went straight to really cheap vodka that I drank any hour of the day. It didn't matter. I mean, basically, keep that was again what started as 2 beers turned into a full-on addiction, and it was just a festering of depression signal that I never took time to recognize, and because of that, it got out of control to where, like I said, it started off me walking around the block with a beer. Man, by the time we got back to Wisconsin, I was in the marathon race, but I had no idea how I got there. So, I mean, and at that point, when you get to that place, that's when you start realizing, like, that's when the thoughts of ideation came into play really, really heavy. I had made like some minor attempts the year leading up to my attempt. Did a little 32-hour cycle, but we all chalked it up to the alcohol, because you're just so hammered, so you're not thinking straight, whatever. Well, you're getting hammered for a reason, though, So we never, I never addressed the why behind it. And I remember that year I had made a comment that I'll be lucky if I see the age 32. And so I'm up north at this time. My birthday is 9/11, and I get to 32. My mom and her boyfriend drive up with the car for me. That was my birthday gift, and it was at that moment that I had realized that the guard was down, because I said I wasn't going to get to 32. So when I did, they had a sense of relief, like, oh, he got there, we're good. And so they didn't, that worry was there, right? So they weren't looking over the shoulder anymore, and I wasn't looking over my shoulder looking for them and things like that. And so it was like, oh, I can do this and get away. Like, they think I'm happy, everybody thinks, I'm in a good place. Kind of that you get really good at faking the smile. So the saying "fake it till you make it," I used to say that all the time, in the bank world. And looking back, one of the worst sayings ever. Because no, don't fake it till you make it. Be who you really are in that moment, because it's the only way you're going to either A, get out of it if it's negative, or if it's positive, like, it's the only way that others are going to be able to feel that positive energy. But faking it, what good does it do? You're lying to yourself, you're lying to others, and so because of that, you can't help yourself, and others can't help you either. So it's actually one of the most detrimental things that you can actually say, and I say it all the time. And I got really damn good at it too. Um, I did some TikTok videos about the story too, and I posted on a picture that I took 1 week before my incident. At this point, I had plans in place, right? The wheels were in motion. Like, I'm like, all right, again, the guard is down. So at this point, I'm processing the execution of it, right? How I'm going to go about this. Um, because again, take home 180 a month, my son being 4 years old, my family constantly worried about me every second of every single day. Like, I can handle it because I have broad shoulders. What I can't handle, because I'm a pleaser, is that I'm doing the opposite of being a pleaser with everybody in my life. And so, like, for me, that was a personality shock. Like, the one thing that I was proud of was pleasing others, but I couldn't please any of them. I was disappointing all of them. And that was where it was in my head, I had talked to myself and said, I stay here in place, but this is the safest place for me to be at, because my grandparents can come get my son with me, because I can't afford to buy a car and travel to Minnesota, every month and pay all that stuff. So I need to be here, which means I can't get out of this situation that I'm in financially. So I'm never going to be able to provide for my son ever. And he's 4. That means I have 14 more years of that. 14 more years of disappointing everybody every single day. And I know I can mask it because I've gotten good at it, right? I wear a mask great. No one saw anything. But what I couldn't handle was knowing that they were hurting every single day because of my mask. And so I convinced myself that 14 years times 365 days a year, a whole lot of days, man, a whole lot of disappointment. But if I were to leave, they would be disappointed in the moment, disappointed for the months after, 6 months, a year, kind of how I rationalized it. They would be then after that point sad on anniversaries of the dates, birthday, holidays, right? So you shrink 365 down to 10, 12 days a year. So for me, it was a math equation of how can I not be a disappointment to them and negatively impact their lives in the least way possible. And so one of my most controversial TikToks was I asked myself if I thought what I did was selfish, and I say no. And I got a lot of private messages of how could you say that? Well, you have to. I'm trying to give people perspective as a survivor, because it is the label that gets put on suicide a lot is that it's selfish, and so and some maybe are, right, but I can share a real perspective of what my brain was doing, where my mind was at, and that for me it was the most unselfish thing I could do because it was the only way to ease their pain. It wasn't about my pain at that point. Like, I was comfortable with the pain, but it was about taking theirs away. And so for me, that was my sacrifice. That was the way I could be a pleaser again, hurt them the least number of days, or times over and over, and I was willing to be the sacrifice. So for me, it was an unselfish act. And my background, I sent you that. I started writing a book, kind of about my story, the years leading up to it, things like that. In the book, I do share the permission, and what I've gathered, I'm not a shrink, right? I'm a ruler like that. I just have firsthand testament knowledge, which I think can be more valuable than reading books, anyways. But most seek some sort of permission before they execute, in some way, shape, or form. Mine came through my 3-year-old son. We were sitting on the beach. I just got past that 32nd birthday. I knew everyone's garbage down. I was already plotting everything out, so I just needed to know he was going to be okay. That was it. Like, if I got that he was going to be good, then we're good. If he wasn't, in the next 14 years, I can tolerate the pain, and he's telling me that he's going to need me. So I'm going to have to watch others be in pain, but because he needs me. So at that point, it was if he says, if I don't get permission, right, and I don't do it, I'm comfortable because I'm there for him. And I'll be comfortable hurting everybody else because he's going to run the beach. Asked him, I said, Cam, I said, how would you feel if Daddy had to go away, forever? And he was like, what do you mean, Dad? I said, well, what if God called Daddy up and he needed another angel? My son's answer was, I would be sad, Dad, but I'd be okay because he taught me how to be tough. And it was that. That was it. That was my green light. Like, it was, all right. He told me he'll make it. He'll be all right without me. Which means I won't have to hurt him anymore or be a disappointment to him. And I can rest easy knowing that he's going to be the best version of himself without me there then. Because I won't be a hindrance. I won't be holding him back. And so we finished that trip, take him back home. And that was when all went into motion. Because I got my food. So I tell people, loved ones, individuals have taken their own life. They often ask, like, what could I have done? And my answer is nothing. Because once you get to that place, nothing in my life could have changed that would have changed that permission statement for me following through. I could have won the Powerball the next day. I promise you, I still would have done it. Because that's where that mental makeup, that buildup of 10 years of depression that you ignored, right? From Arizona to Minnesota to Oregon back to Wisconsin, that buildup is so consumed within you that you got that approval that you never thought you would get because you don't think you're ever going to get it. So when you get it, like, oh, you ain't giving that up. That's like the golden ticket right there. So I try to tell people, like, there is stuff. What you can do is recognize things early on and get comfortable being uncomfortable. So if you see a friend, a family member, that breaks a habit, just question it. What? All right, that means you love them and you care for them. I mean, they might be abrasive at first, but they're abrasive because they didn't know that they changed the habit. Probably, right? I didn't know I changed the habits. So you're just caught off guard because you don't recognize it. We don't sometimes, but it takes courage to have conversations like that with people. Because we fear the unknown. And because of that, our fears, man, we let them just, you go back crazy. And so what I can share, the thing that I learned from all this is that all the fears I made up in my head, so there was all of them, right? Disappointing people, everything like that, not being needed, all these things. They are a million times worse in your head than what reality actually is. It's all up there. Like you put yourself in that place because you never took the time to address it when it was small fear. You let it get to a point of like no return. And you can't address it then because you have made a worst case scenario for the worst case scenario. There's no going back from there. So it's okay to talk about. That's okay. I mean, I can tell you right now, my son is going to be 8 in June 8th, golden birthday. Last summer on his visits, I made it a point that when he had like a tantrum or whatever, to get him to explain what emotion he was feeling. Are you angry? Are you frustrated? Are you sad? Because all I see is tears and a red face. I need you to know what it is so that you can then know what you're feeling, define it, and then find a healthy outlet, tool, resource, coping mechanism, get you out of that feeling. And man, we spent 2 hours, and he just got even more mad, but he finally got to the place of being able to define that it was frustration. And he's, at that point, he's 6. And he discovered that, those asphalt rocks, smashing those, best thing, we don't smash asphalt rocks for 10 minutes. And guess what? Snap out of it. Like that. 2 hours, we were getting nowhere, man. I mean, I was offering him everything under the sun that a 6-year-old will want, and it just wasn't. because he needed to be able to define it, like what it was. And as adults, we need to be able to define our emotions too, and not be afraid. Like right now, sometimes people are like, "You're really in touch with your feelings." Hell yeah, because I hit all my feelings, and guess what that got me? So talk about it. It's not. I try to focus a lot on mental health because it's taboo, not masculine, not macho. You know what is really masculine, really macho, is having something that society tells you isn't masculine and saying F that, because that is going to make me a better me. So I will take on all those negative comments from society because I know I'm going to be a better person. That makes you a strong person. That's man. That's man. Going to therapy is manly because you know you're going to get side eyed from some people in your life, but you're willing to take on that side eye because you know that's an investment in yourself. So, I mean, talk about it. But talk, talk, talk. I have a 24/7 policy. My phone is never off. All my social medias are public so that, I mean, just anybody can, at any point in time, can stumble across it, read the story, reach out, and they might be in that dark place and realize that someone that's walked, a couple miles in their shoes isn't going to judge them. And at that point, they can share those really, really dark places that they've hidden for a long time. And hopefully we can, put some plans in place to get over them. But I mean, it was a build up. To answer your question, it was long, man. It was a long build up, man.
I feel very similar to you. Like, I never got to that dark place. I've always been afraid of death. But, I didn't graduate high school. I've never been super financially stable. And, the past 5 years, I can't relate directly to depression, but I've had agoraphobia, which is basically so much anxiety that I'm afraid to leave my house. And I had that for 5 years where I couldn't leave my house. So I've definitely felt a similar burden of like, I can't provide for the people that I love. And it's a miserable existence, because I think I'm probably like, I like to please people too. And that's where I find my worth, because I don't really have, a job to go to and feel proud of or whatever. Everything I do that I feel proud of is just little relationship things making people feel good. But I try to keep myself as open as possible and, there for as many people as I can. And you mentioned therapy, how people think that it's like not masculine or whatever. And I've had the same exact thought. And it's like, people don't want men to be super emotional, or emotions are weak or less or whatever. But if you go to therapy, you're just trying to logically come up with logical solutions or answers to emotional problems, which is like the most manly thing you can do. Like, it's really not, let's sit here and cry. It's like, why are you thinking that? Like, so people got it all wrong. Like, therapy is not a feminine thing at all. It's like, basically, you're lecturing yourself. Like, how did I get into this spot? Let's figure it out. Back to your story, though, I'm curious, at what point when you walked down to the lake, was it a split second after the shot? Was it, at what point were you like, no, fuck this, I want to live? Like, was it during the press? Was it right after the press? I'm just curious at the exact moment you were like, fuck this, I'm living.
So it was at the moment where, I mean, because I'm concussed, right? I think I've fucking 9mm hollow point in my head, so I have concussion for sure, right? So everything is like, I mean, a rat. And so it was at the point of where I was mentally able to process that isn't what death is, and logically realized that I was alive. Because at first it was that, like, I had that first thought was, this is what was, I mean, and men tend to use guns for suicide more than women do, because it's supposed to be final.
Right.
So
Yeah.
for me, it was that, like, hey, I chose the thing that, like, you can't fail at. I mean, because that's another part of my story that I talk about in the book too, is like, I had all the other, like, things, but I couldn't do those things because I got, and I know it's gonna work. And then here I am with you today. Because guess what? It didn't work. So, I mean, it is the best, worst decision I've ever made in my life. To regret. Best because I am the person I am today, and I wouldn't be without it. And I'm the best version of me that I've ever been in my entire life. Like I tell people all the time, 4 years ago, Ryan, I wouldn't have been his friend. Like for real, wouldn't have been his friend. This Ryan, you want him to be your friend. I am an asset, and I don't say that in an arrogant way. I just say it in a way of like, I am the person that is literally always going to be willing to listen because I know what it's like to feel like you don't have a voice. You have a safe place to come to, and I now have a purpose, and I try to live out every single day. I live every day with purpose and intentions. So every day I go into that with that mindset, um, because we have the ability to impact our own lives, other people's lives, and we don't even realize it. Sometimes it can be the simplest thing, holding a door open for a stranger at a gas station. They might have been at that dark place where like they're like one more thing, but you opened the door, and they went home and thought there is kindness in this world still. You're never going to know it, but I promise you, at some point, you have changed someone's life or saved them. Mine's on a different scale because of what I was able to survive. And because for me, again, I feel like I have to believe in God because the too many miracles happen along the way to not believe in them. So I feel like I tell, I went to heaven, got to the gates, knocked on them, and God gave me two middle fingers and said, "Not today, homie. I need you back down there." And so he sent me back down here. He chose to save one life because that one life can save an uncountable number of lives. And so for me, that's the way I look at it. Like,
Yeah, I was walking.
I got.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I don't know if you were. I was walking a few years, maybe not a few years ago, many years ago with Austin, and there's a light that always changes by Mill as soon as you press it, and I'd always press it just to fuck with people. Like we weren't crossing the street, but it would stop like I don't know 10 cars, and I'd always tell Austin, I just changed the world right there because everyone got to their destination. I may have saved car accidents. I may have caused car accidents. Everything you do. So when you say, God sent you back to save people, I actually believe that. Like, I actually believe that, there are a lot of people that don't have anybody, and the small acts of kindness can really change everything. And just being able to be there for someone. So I do believe that you have definitely saved people's lives, even if you never met them. They could have watched your TikTok and never had a conversation with you, but realized, wow, I actually had that thought. And like everything you do, as long as you're aiming in a positive direction and you're going into it with love and kindness, you will change the world for the better. Absolutely, I believe that.
100%. And kindness is free too.
Yeah. Yeah, people get distracted, there's a lot of social media and technologies and just there's a lot of distractions, but we're all in this together. No one knows what happens when you die or whatever, but we're all suffering, and it's better to just be kind and be there for each other. People need to pay attention a little bit more.
Exactly, bud. I feel you.
Now, did you ever find exactly what it was you were running for, or was it just, a slow build-up of, a few drinks here, a few drinks there, and it turned into, because initially, is at the end there, you said you weren't able to provide for, people or whatever, but that wasn't the case initially, because you didn't have your son right off the bat. I'm curious what exactly the beginning of that you might think that you were running from. Maybe just yourself.
Very go back to Arizona because from soda to a couple beers, right? Because that was a habitual change I didn't recognize. At that point, your cousin and I were together for quite a long time, and it was that like marital pressure and it was at the age that like we were at, what we were trying to accomplish in our lives. Like she was, just getting into teaching, and I was just growing in the banking world. And so in my head, I'm like, yes, I know, like I know that's our path, but we got like this career path thingy that we're both just like starting, and who knows where that could go, right? And so I was that like, well, so another saying, right? Like money doesn't buy happiness. I am that person, right? Who money doesn't buy happiness. Because I tell you right now, the more money I made, the more depressed I was. Didn't even realize. Like look back at look back at. I mean, you saw it together, right? You look back at it. We're probably the happiest when we paid the least. And as I got promotions, I make a little more. Like you didn't even realize you were a little less happy because you were a little less you. You started when it was competing with the Joneses, right? Like I went out and bought Sun season tickets. For what? What cares? Go to a game or two. But no, we got money now. Let's do it. We got to look the part. And so you start looking to appease to society and others, and ignore what's important to you. And that's and so a big part of what I shared on two parts, my takeaways from being able to survive, is self care, self love, self worth, self confidence. Because I feel like as a society, from the day we're born, we are taught not to be selfish, and we confuse that word with all those other traits of self confidence, self worth, self care, especially self care. Like we feel like we're being selfish if we take a me day. No, it's an investment in yourself, because if you do that for you, which means you become the best you, then every person you interact with gets the best version of you. If you don't take that day and you go help 10 other people, but you're on 50% of the gas tank, then you only help them 50% for those 10 people. Versus if you take that me day and recharge, get back to a hundo, then you're giving them the best version of you at 100%. So they're gaining more value out of every interaction with you. So self-care, self-worth, self-confidence is an investment in yourself that you end up paying back to everybody else that you interact with. They get that. That's their reward. You taking that day, they get the reward later on because they get the best you. So it's important, to do that. I mean, I again share on TikToks like I think it was like a second surgery. My face looks like a goddamn balloon, man. It is ridiculous. But at that point, where I started looking in the mirror and telling myself I looked handsome, I mean, did I believe it? Hell no. But when you wake up and you look back at some of the earlier pictures, like, well, I am more handsome than what I was, though. And so it becomes that marathon, right? Like, it was like, you know what? I am more handsome than I was yesterday. I do look better. I do got a little more swagger today. And you keep doing that every single day to the point where the self confidence becomes real. And you do have, and you do love yourself. And when you get to that place, it's insane because it has so many benefits. One, when somebody gives you a compliment, you're like, yeah, I know. I told myself that too. Thank you. I appreciate that. Like it has meaning. Versus when you don't have the confidence, someone gives you a compliment, what do you always do? I just be nice. You don't mean it, whatever, right? Like we put it down. We literally take a compliment and turn it into a negative on ourselves
Right.
because we don't, we're saying we don't believe ourselves. And on the other side, if you got that self confidence, if someone decides that they want to insult you, well, because you're confident, you kind of, okay, what do you do? It's like a little like look at the finger, right? But when you don't have confidence, someone insults you, it feels like a goddamn like uppercut, right? Poof, man, that blew. Like you felt it, like it shook you to your core because they validated how you feel about yourself already. So you get that part of it where compliments become more impactful. Negative comments like just don't mean shit. Just like whatever. Okay, that's you. Go do you. I know who I am, right? I know I am a delicious cup of tea. You just might not like tea. That's all right. Go find you some tequila. Like it's okay. We don't have to please everybody. And I'm not going to. But I know what I'm worth because I've looked in the mirror for 2 years straight and seen my progression and have seen me be able to tell my story slowly and then more in depth, to the point and see the rewards of that. Like I've been able to have people reach out. I've been able to have people that have, I, I've had people that have said they hated me reach out because they knew I was the only person that would be able to understand what they were going through. And so you get all that validation, when you're then you get these validations on the side, you're with yourself and sharing it. Your story becomes more vivid. People can relate to it more. It connects more. They share it more. And so it spreads more, all because you decided to invest in yourself and find what, what you need for yourself to be happy. Because when you have that, you don't rely on others for it. Because we can't count on others. Not that way. We all have a business. That's one of the my therapy. Being a pleaser, we give 110% to everybody, right? Um, but most people aren't pleasers. So in return, we get like 50%. Well, WTF? I gave you 110. So we're like always disappointed, right? In what we get in return. Like, I don't, come on. But that's on us. So most of our disappointment in life comes from expectations. And the only person that sets expectations is you. You set them for yourself and you set them for people in your life. And so if you set unrealistic expectations that people in your life cannot reach, then you're going to be disappointed. But you shouldn't be disappointed in them, because what if what they did exceeded their expectations? It just didn't hit yours because personalities match. And so I use this example when it comes to like my father. Um, I used to believe every single time when he said he's going to do it, he's going to do it, right? Like ignore all the other 99 times, like, yeah, he's going to do it, he's going to do it, and then do it. Mother effer. Get disappointed, right? So you're depressed, like that's a disappointment, that's a trigger, right? Like, you got more depressed now. And it got to a place where I was like, I know I would always do it, and follow through, but that's not him. And I had to take a step back and realize when he's going to do something that I needed to reset my expectations of it and say, okay, history is told that his personality, he's going to say it, but not always execute. So I gave, through a lot of therapy, we had kind of landed on, like, let's give 3 times, right? 3 times to follow. So I was setting myself up for disappointment 3 times. And one came around. He's got 2 more chances, right? Like, he couldn't come through, right? Second time comes around, doesn't fall through. And with this one, they're all with my son too, so it's not like you're hurting me, you're hurting him. So I'm alive for him. So you're hitting chords, I don't care. This is where I draw that line of like family. Doesn't have to be blood. And your journey of that darkness is to only have your circle be people that are on the same journey as you to get you to where your destination is. Anybody that's not, kick them out of your circle. I don't care who they are. They can be blood, they can be a sister, they can be brother, they can be parents. It doesn't matter. If they aren't on that journey with you, supporting you, providing activities or whatever it may be that affect you in the way to get you to that destination, and they're only bringing in things that pull you away from it, then cut them up, circle them. And so my dad failed the 3rd time. And I was like, all right, well, okay, that's 3. And all 3 times I took the heat. I lied to my son for you because I didn't want him to hurt. But now I can't do that anymore, because now I realize that I can't have any expectations of you. The only way to protect myself from being disappointed is to literally not believe a word you say. And if that's where we're at, then you provide no value to me, because you're only ever going to bring me down. And so recognizing that allowed me to cut out a negative part of my life that had potential to send me down a dark path. That's a lot of it too, is recognizing the things that aren't aligned with what you are aspiring for. And it's hard sometimes. Like, you love them, and it's not that you don't, but you got to love yourself more. and you have to have more self-respect and self-love to be able to say it's okay to not have everyone that you're supposed to have in your circle, because they don't have the same goals, expectations, values, everything. Like, it's not selfish. It's taking care of you so that you can be the best you for everybody else.
Well, that couple things you said there. I mean, that end there hit me, and I want to talk about that. But something you said earlier was that you were the most happy when you didn't really have much, and it feels like there was a sacrifice where you worked so much, so you didn't have that me time. Not me time in a selfish way, but as you said, self care. Like, you had too much work to focus on, and you were more depressed in that situation than when I'm assuming when you were just at Brenda's in a room or whatever. It seemed. I mean, I don't know. It's weird because you need money so you can eat food and also provide for the people that you love and yourself or whatever. But at the same time, doing too much of that, you don't get any time for yourself. I just wanted to mention that. But something you said there at the end, I'm not really good at letting people go. And it's not funny you say that, but you're probably not aware of this, but half of my family separated a year and a half ago. Like they don't talk to the other half, and I'm probably in the center of that situation. I mean, we don't really have to get into why, but it's been really hard to let go of going over to Ray and Lori's for Christmas every year, and all the Halloween. I mean, I'm sure you remember how close everyone was. I've been dreaming about them. I've been, it's been really like I've tried personally everything I feel like I could do to amend things, make things better, and it's become a situation where it's an impossible situation where it's hard to go into detail without going into detail because I don't want to make it about that, but it's become a toxic environment where I'm just like trying to make things better. Like, I love you, we can work things out, and they're basically just like, shut the fuck up, we hate you. And that's a really quick summarize of what's been happening. But even with all that hate, even though I know it's not good for me to care or want to make things better, I still do. I don't. It's hard. It's hard to let people go. It's hard to.
It is, but hopefully you can look at me and I mean, I had to let go of a actual parent basically. So I mean, but I'm bad because of it.
Yeah.
I mean, and when I got discharged from the hospital, the first one went to my cousin, because my cousin is my hero. I mean, one of my first memories, like coming to in the hospital, I'm still blacked out. Like I like visually can't see it, but I could feel somebody laying with me in my hospital bed. Like that was my first coherent memory. And then at that point, knowing I was alive, too, I feel a body in here. And so then when I actually came, brought it up, and they're like, "Oh yeah, Katie was laying with me all the time." I mean, down there. So first discharge was back at her place with her family.
Well, I think that's cool that the first part of and I would call it your second life. I think you were reborn. The first memory of your second life was just love. Like, you felt it. Someone's right there. That's cool.
Is that right? I'm needed. How amazing, right? Because you were trying to leave thinking you weren't, and the very first thing when you wake back up is need, want. Basically giving a middle finger, all those nasty things you're telling yourself when you pull the trigger, and so we went out for another major surgery, and at that point decided to try to do the in-home care at Dad's house. In-home care went well for a few days. I had done that surgery, was actually one of the most brutal ones. It was my skin graft on my left calf and everything. So it was like the ointment bandage. I mean, I mean, it's painful. A lot of cleaning to do. I couldn't do it for to like clean that all up and stuff. So I was relying on my dad and my stepmom to be able to do that. Mainly my stepmom, because she said she was going to be able to take care of the wound care. Like, I mean, that's the most important is the wound care. I can't do it myself. I already had MRSA in the hospital my first go around. Being down there. We really can't roll the dice any more times. Like, hey, even I am going to run out of God's, gifts. Like, he's going to be like, all right, maybe it wasn't meant to be you to save. I've used too many miracles on you, bud. So let's not roll the dice any more times than we have to. We get like a few days into it, things like that, and I remember still could literally that morning recognize like creatures of habit. We all are. I'm also observant to a fault, so I catch other people change their habits, and I recognize myself. Like change all of her morning habits, like just different, right? And it was where I felt that moment of competition. Like she felt like she was competing for attention. One year I could be so you like we all paid me to be here. So I'm here. Dude, I ain't taking nobody away from you. Go ahead. I just need you to change this goddamn bandage. That's all I ask. I recognized it that morning. She coming home that night, and it's bandage time. And nope, nope. Got her drink, got her dinner, sitting across from me, kind of looking like, we gonna do this? Because it's that time. And no, it was just that straight up refusal point. So, I mean, when it comes to my dad too, like it's chance after chance. But when you get let down enough times, you just have to be the thickest blood possible. Don't matter if it's not aligned with what's gonna make you the best you. And man, I survived, but I survived. Ain't no way in hell I am not being the best me anymore. uh, and saying that I'll actually be vulnerable right now and share with you guys. I've had a rough few months. Uh, Out of nowhere, I was actually had an increase in pain. Uh, and I've been on pain medication for 4 years now. And I always start high after surgery and wean myself back down. And so we're at a point where I'm to where my lower dosage. I'm like, man, hey, it hurts, goddamn. And so I had to take a little bit more than what I usually take, which then caused a ripple effect with my pain doctor, things like that. So we've been like at odds for like the last 3 months, and just not seeing eye to eye. Come to find out, my remade jaw had a fracture in it, and on the fracture point, there's infections, right? Giant abscesses, like right on the gum line there, hurt like a son of a gun, right? So there's a reason why I was feeling this extra pain. So at least it was validated, right? But the pain doctor couldn't see past that and put it as I was becoming addicted to the pain meds. So I have an increase in pain, but getting less medication because she convinced herself that it's an addiction issue, not a pain issue. Go see a bunch of specialists that in addiction that all say no, he's just in more pain. Plus, there's an X-ray that shows yes, he has a fracture. Fractures cause pain. And if that don't work, there's that giant abscess that's filled with pus, like right in the center of his mouth. So like if he tries to eat or drink or whatever, he hits it. Hurts like hell. But it didn't matter. I wasn't getting through the doctor, so I'm getting cut back. And so when I don't have the right medication to treat my pain, then my body has to try to take the energy it has to sensitize the pain, right? And so because my body's using all that extra exertion energy, I now have done for myself. And so the last like 3 months, I started caring less about hygiene because I just didn't have the gusto to do it. Like, just didn't. Like, I mean, when I had the right prescription, it was shower every day, and I make myself look good because again, like self confidence. Like I looked in the mirror when I looked like a freaking giant hot air balloon and told myself to look good. Right now, I want to tell that to myself because I do look good, damn it. But I couldn't do it no more because I just didn't have the gusto to get up in the morning and do all that stuff. And so all these habits were changing. Just tonight, even I told my folks because I just a couple weeks ago made a decision with my pain doctor because I had done everything she asked me to do. Went and saw every specialist, changed even the pain. I basically wasn't really eating because pain. So I'm like, oh, if I don't, then I minimize pain that way, right? Uh, and so the last appointment, I asked, okay, so and so, she has also said that there's an addiction issue, it's a pain issue. Can I get my refund? Well, she's like, their names aren't on the script. My name is. Um, and she responded, yes, she would only write me my scripts going forward if I agreed to go to Glee group meeting for addiction and see a addiction counselor weekly. And at that point, I have spent the last 4 years building my self-worth, building my self-confidence, building my character. And that got all questioned over and over and over again, to the point where when we got to that place where I had done everything she asked, saw every specialist, we had basically provided all the scientific data that no, he's not, it's pain. And that wasn't enough to back you off of your opinion to where you wanted me to go somewhere I shouldn't be just to get medication that isn't even enough to treat my pain. And I decided that the last 3 months, all these issues that I was having with the pain doctor, for the first time in 4 years, I was depressed again. Like it was like, oh shit, you aren't that Ryan, like that, the one that people see on TikToks or whatever. Like you ain't that. Like you're not you, because you're fighting this battle, with the pain doctor. You're also fighting the pain, but the pain doctor is eroding that self-esteem because they are questioning your character that you've worked your tail off to rebuild. And it's not an addiction issue because you're in pain. Like you literally choose not to eat. So it's not like I want that pill. It's I'm actually just not even going to eat because it's not worth the pain at this point. Uh, and so I said, no, forget it. I have 3 weeks till surgery. I'm just going to go without any pain medication. Because for me, at least then, I'm taking a stand saying my character, my mental health matters more to me than the physical pain does. Because I just decided I was standing for myself and saying, you're wrong about how you feel about it. And I have worked my tail off to feel this good about myself. And I'm not going to let you wiggle me down that dirty path, because it is a dangerous road. I know how dangerous that road is. And for me to have to say that I'm actually on it again, that sucks. And so taking a stand to say the way to get out of that is to remember you are priority number one. Take care of you. Physical pain comes and goes. I mean, don't get me wrong, days freaking suck, right, from a pain perspective. But I can stand there and be like, I know it wasn't. I know it wasn't. And I'm not going to validate somebody thinking it was by going to a group meeting to get a medication. The ultimate middle finger that I can give to them is saying, oh, you thought I was taking too much. Well, guess what? I went 3 weeks without taking any, just to feel better about myself mentally. I will absorb all the pain because I feel better about me, knowing that I know who I am and I know what I'm not going to let you degrade that based off of an opinion that has no validation. So, um, it was a big moment for me though, man, because it's, you swore you'd never be depressed again when you get a second chance at life. But guess what, man? Life, dude, kick you in the nuts. I'm just blessed to have tools and resources now to recognize when it's kicking me in the balls and have enough self-worth to be able to stand up for myself, So,
Yeah, time is a weird thing because it seems like, immediately everyone was there for you, like an oh shit moment, and then you said, slowly, um, I think you said your wife's or your dad's wife stopped changing the bandages or whatever, so it starts to become a less and less thing, and you had your second chance and you're full of life and thank God I'm still here, but even that can dwindle as you seeing that you're you know getting back into this depression. But you're right, you have all these tools now. Is it possible for you to change your doctor? Because it seems like she's just incorrect.
Like now I'm gonna end up going through like the hospital. So like pain doctors are tough. I mean, so like this background because of what I did.
Right, but
It took me.
it seems like if you were to explain it to people, you know, like, look, dude, I have an abscess, I got a fracture. It's not that I want more pain, and if you don't believe me, there must be someone else you can talk to.
It, yeah, there's booked out. So, like one that I called is like 6 weeks booked out. So like I'll get everything real accurate and things like that. And, I mean, it'll all work out. It was one of those like it was sad too though because like that was a relationship that I built. Um, like she had shared about her daughter with me and depression and things like that. So like she knew how hard I worked a character too. So it's one of those like I mean her and I had some meetings like we were like ooh like at the doctor's office. I'm like I'm trying to understand where you're coming from, but I can't get there.
Right, but that reminds me of what you said earlier of expectations of people and how, you know, you probably expected her to understand you and to understand this
I,
problem, but she's just giving you the opposite reaction to what you think you deserve.
it happens when people don't meet the expectations that you set. You get sad,
Yep.
and that is a realistic expectation that she did not meet, and it ended up being where I was sad, and I ended up in the depressed place. I was blessed enough to be able to recognize it, and say, okay, well, how do you get undepressed? Self worth, self care. I want to stand up for myself.
So right now you're just in pause, just in pain, waiting for that pain doctor and the surgery.
For surgery. Surgery is 2 weeks from today.
2 weeks from today. Do you know how many more surgeries there will be? Or there's
I
just
mean, we'll
whenever you feel like you're good. There's no number.
no exact number, no. Like this one, because of this fracture and this abscess stuff, they have to address that. So it's really going to be a short one, pretty minor. They're going to potentially take out some of the metal hardware that's holding it together um, to see if the uh, which is really my hip, can hold up on its own. Um, so could be actually a really big deal though, because if it does, then we're on the right path. Um, and the end goal being where we, you know, have taken all the tissue and everything's on this side, give myself, a nice full set of implants and, be on the cover of GQ magazine. Um, if it doesn't hold, then we're talking about going back 3 years worth of surgeries and doing them all over again. And I got on my left side. So we're going to go over to the right side now and take them over there. But so glass half full, at least both sides of the match.
Right.
Cool.
So how long were you not able to talk? You said 6 months you were on a whiteboard, or
I'm not going to think so talk, I would say, is more like 3.
3 months?
And even that, like I remember when I got the trach and I had the plastic thing, and like they came in, they tried to teach how to use it, and man, I couldn't figure it out. And I just I'm crying, I'm like, God, couldn't figure it out. My mom was actually there that night. Trying to talk. And I finally got a word out. And I'm just bawling. Like I spoke. Like that was my voice. I heard it. It exists. And grabbed my phone. I just called my phone. Like, it's Ryan.
Yeah.
Gibberish. Knew I was speaking again. And it was amazing. Like that's the stuff for me that even on bad days, back, the things that I used to take for granted. I mean, I will have meals still where I just cheer up because man, I was tube fed for 6 months, and then even after I was done being tube fed, my food was puree, and that might sound gross to you, but when you're tube fed and you get a pureed roast beef on a plate in the hospital, man, it tastes like filet mignon.
Right. I mean,
uh,
thank God you have your voice, you know, because, you know, looking at the picture, especially early on, I had to ask you. I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure if you're able to talk or not. So,
too many miracles, man. I mean, I missed my tongue. I don't know how. I mean, hit the eye socket, ricocheted out. I mean, I lost a left eye. I mean, it's insane.
Yeah,
You
that
know,
was something I
again,
was going to ask you too, because I haven't really asked you too much about it. I didn't know if that was your real eye or not, so it looks good. It looks like
I
it
think I
is,
know. Right?
so.
It was a two different color route because it's like one of those like, oh, that's different. He's different. Yeah, he is
Right.
different. You're right.
I mean, from the pictures early on, you're looking good. It's starting to round out. It's starting to look pretty even. I think early on, I would take my finger and I would put it on one side of your face on Facebook, and I'd be like, yep, that's Ryan. I can see him smiling. Like, I literally remember that face. That is, that's how I would tell if you're happy in a picture or not. Because it's still the same exact face. Absolutely.
uh, different person overall now. That's for sure.
Yeah.
More well, that's for
Well,
sure.
now you got two sides to you, man. Not physically, but just you know the darkness, and now born into the light. And that might sound cheesy, but that's what it is.
Right? I mean, that's the reality of it.
It seems it's
When you learn to embrace it.
right. Yeah, I do think it's important to go through something horrible in your life so you learn to appreciate something good. Hopefully not as extreme as what happened to you, but the people need to recognize that it's okay that bad things happen, and that might just be the best thing for you.
And it happened all around, right? I mean, so pre this, my ex-wife and I, when she called pre October 5th, 2017, and I saw her name on my phone, my stomach would knock. Like I couldn't take it because again, like I knew nothing good was gonna come because I got no money. Now, I mean, shoot, she called me to talk about boyfriends. I mean, like the best relationship we've had probably from when we first started dating. But again, like you kind of realize when you have something so traumatic, one, how precious and beautiful life is, how much crap we really just do blow right by. Like I was thinking about that. I was going to bring this up with you, or just today. I think back to Arizona, like man, I've just really never appreciated like the state that it was and when I lived there. I mean, like the fact that you can be in the desert for an hour and a half, you can be in the mountain, 30 degrees cooler, chill. You can be to Vegas in 4 hours. You can be to Mexico in 3 hours. You can be to San Diego in 4.5 hours. Like, amazing. I mean, I can look back as it and be appreciative, but in the moment, I wasn't. I just took it all for granted. It was
Yeah.
all around.
Arizona's kind of a
Never.
shit show now, to be honest. All the Californians and ASU kids. Tempe is just a wreck. We moved to Mesa. I hate Tempe now, but I used to love it down there.
Hey, brother, I don't mean to cut this short, but so
You didn't mean to cut it short, but what? You cut out there for a second.
cut it short, but the face is kind of hurting quite a bit while I'm talking.
No, you're good, man. I think we got a lot out of it, and hopefully, if you want to come back on, love to have you, dude.
Thank you so much.
All right, brother. Well, I'll talk to you soon, man. Later.